My name is Adrian Nanchev, and this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. So, subscribe and click on the bell notification below for the latest upload. Now, jobs don't have futures, people do. What does this mean? This essentially means that because the way the world develops and changes and grows through automation, through increased productivity, through changes of industry and technology over the years, from agrarian economy to industrial revolution to atomic to information to the knowledge age, jobs will come and go. Jobs will come and go. New industries will be created, therefore new jobs will be created, and other jobs will become redundant or obsolete. The only constant in all these times, in all these hundreds of years, is you and me. It's humans. It's human talent, human ability, human capacity. In economics, it's called human capital. The abilities, talent, skill, etc. that you personally bring to the table as an economic force that you bring to the table and bring to the business. Jobs can change, economic requirements change, but people are always going to be still around. Population is going to reach 10 billion by 2030. People are always still going to be around, so that means that industries will always change. A job isn't for life anymore. You're for life. But what are you doing with your time? If you're working for somebody else, then you're not doing the best of your time. Because 10 years from now, will that job still be around? No, but you will. You'll still be. Now, I want to go back a tiny bit. Agrarian economy, this is when, say, 50%, 80% plus of the population and the workforce was working on the land, growing and tilling the land, growing crops, wheat for example. And those would have been sold to the monasteries or sold to the markets or the manufacturers eventually. Through the rise of increased productivity and increased technology, one farmer can buy a tractor, and that tractor can do the same work of 10 people. So that means instantly 10 people are made redundant because of technology. And that'll happen exponentially throughout time. And that has happened. We went from farming to the workhouse and the factories became automated. So all those hundreds of people that worked in a single factory, now it's down to 50 or so people, roughly. Something like that, because the majority of the work is done through computers and robotics. So that means that people are laid off. What this means from an economic point of view is that your time is freed up. Your time is freed up to pursue your passion, your interests, your desires, that allows you to build a business and create new industries. Let's put it this way. If it weren't, you could argue that if it weren't for the tractor that fed Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, they didn't have the free time to build Facebook, Apple or Microsoft. If they were too busy worrying about growing their own food, they wouldn't have had the time to build their businesses. Increased productivity makes our lives better. Wealth, standard of living increases because things can be made in much cheaper prices, and there's much more of them. Take a baker, and the baker manages to reduce the cost of baking a single loaf of bread by 50%. That means for the same budget, we as consumers can buy twice as many loaves of bread. For the same money, we can buy more loaves of bread, thus our standard of living, the standard increases. The poorest people in the US today have a better life standard of living than the billionaire did in the 19th century, and a better standard of living than a king in the medieval times. Things like central heating, refrigeration. Right there, we can stay warm in the winter, and we can have food that can last long throughout the weeks and weeks. We have internet, so we can do business throughout the world. We can have communication throughout the world as well. Trying to think what electricity. Electricity in the late 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s, Georgian times was a bit dodgy. Standard of living is increased. So through increased productivity, our time is freed up. that allows us to do other things that we love. But of course, you're not going to do the thing you love unless you have the comfort zone and the tenacity to do it. And the knowledge, the tenacity and the knowledge, that's it. The comfort zone is the tenacity. Because in the Victorian times, in the Industrial Revolution, there were these people called Luddites. And these Luddites were self-employed cotton workers, I suppose. I wouldn't say seamstress because they were male. They worked on the worked on the cotton, like turning it from raw cotton into like clothing. Luddites. They went around factories destroying all the equipment, all the machinery, because the machinery put them out of a job. But they failed to realise that machinery freed up their time, so then they could have taken what they knew already and marketed it completely different. They could have said, rather than doing this mass manufactured stuff, this is handmade, top quality, artisan, craftsman stuff. A lot of people, when they lost their jobs in the 1980s up north in England because of Margaret Thatcher and closing the mines, a lot of them, their skills were not interchangeable, so they couldn't go from a manufacturing-based economy to a service-based economy, and they failed to have that transition. So the welfare state increases, but with a little bit of change, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of increasing comfort zone, you can take what you know already and somehow market it to the world. Because in England there's a saying, any old rope, people will buy anything. And if you could take your business concept or take your knowledge and put it in business, because of the freed up time, you can then change the world in your own way and do something with your life, as opposed to working for somebody else and exchanging 1 hour's time, exchanging 1 hour of your life for 1 hour's wage. Because if you get paid, let's say £10 an hour by physically exchanging your time, then in theory you can only get paid £240 a day. But when you start leveraging other people and software and infrastructure and building a business, your income, there's no glass ceiling on it, it's infinite. It's all down to you and what you've created and what you can do for the people. But that's why jobs don't have futures, because jobs can be replaced, jobs can be redundant. If you look before 9/11, there was, I think it's Homeland Security. There was no department called Homeland Security. And in the 90s, there was very few jobs with regards to programmers. It wasn't really considered, I suppose it wasn't considered employment because there wasn't much out there. But jobs don't have futures. One person can have many jobs in their lifetime, but the one person they didn't work for was themselves. A few weeks ago I saw someone I've not seen in a long time, and they said to me, they made a comment that, Adrian, I've heard you got all entrepreneurial. And I said to them, given the choice of working for somebody else or for myself, I would prefer to work for myself. So jobs don't have futures, people do. What kind of life do you want to build? Build it. Don't always work for somebody else. There's nothing wrong with it inherently, nothing wrong with it. But in the long term, in regret, when you're on your deathbed, what regrets will you have? And a lot of them say that I regret working too much. I regret not fulfilling my own dreams. I regret being in the office too much. I know that by recording this video, writing these blogs, and writing all these books that I've done, and building all these businesses, I'll have very few regrets. 50 years from now, 40, 60 years from now, I'll look back at this as well and think, wow, I've changed a lot since then. And you know, a lot will change by then. But you know, the one factor that is the same throughout history is humans. We'll always be here, well, for the next, I don't know, a few thousand, whatever odd years, but we will always be here. And it's like, work for yourself. Jobs don't have futures, people do. You've got a future, create it. Well, acknowledge you've got a future, create it, build it, pursue it. Jobs don't have futures, people do. But anyway, if this is your first time to the channel, subscribe, because this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur, and I'm grateful for playing a small role in that today. So subscribe, and you'll see me again soon. How cool is that?